Welcome back to the Sideline Breakdown. And folks, the Springboks didn't just beat Wales, they sent them on a fully funded sightseeing tour of the try line. 73-0. At this point, I'm convinced the scoreboard operator needed an ice pack more than the players. But that's not all. The URC delivered drama again. The Stormers, against all odds, somehow remain unbeaten. I don't know if it's magic, luck, or Cape Town energy, but whatever it is, it's working. And speaking of miracles, let me introduce the man who analyzes rugby with the seriousness of a TMO looking for a reason to give a red card. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Rock Norris. Appreciate it. Interesting weekend of rugby. Good to see the URC back in action. A couple of good games there. And obviously the box, like you said, putting an absolute clinical, disciplined, display up until the end, I suppose, against Wales. What a fantastic game there. But yeah, let's dive straight into it. What did you make? I think let's start with the Springboks, Summer. Yeah, what did you make of the
Yeah,
game?
last international game of the year, so I think we finished it off on a great note. I mean, 73 points to zero. I don't think there's so much to talk about except all the tries and obviously the red card for Eben there in the last minute. I think that's probably the main talking point of the whole game. What did you make of that situation?
I mean, look, I think it was a bit of a brain fart there at the end. I'm not sure, and I mean, I saw Brian Abana post something about the things leading up to it, and I did find it quite strange that, um, the events leading up to the eye gouge wasn't shown. Normally you get kind of a highlight reel of what happened, what transpired, and then eventually leading up to whatever happened. So I thought it was quite funny and quite weird that they didn't show everything up leading up to that point. I saw something that Brian Havana posted that even Etsebeth was eye gouged first, although it doesn't justify what he did at the end of the day. I do think that, I mean, the fact that that wasn't checked and again, events leading up to it wasn't checked to see what happened and what instigated it. Essentially, at the end of the day, they both should have gotten a red card and both should have been sent off. Yeah, I think Eben. I mean, it's disappointing to think that you win a game 73-0 and the main talking point is essentially that. I think it's quite disappointing, but I suppose well deserved. I'm not sure how long he's going to get banned for. I suppose we'll see when that comes up. But yeah, quite disappointing. I'm not sure what your thoughts are there.
So don't you think the supporters are looking for something to justify what he did?
Probably, but again, I think the thing is, if it was an eye gouge that led to an eye gouge, yes, Eben should be sent off and should be banned for that. But it should again be the case that the same should happen vice versa. It doesn't justify what Eben did, but I mean, again, you kind of have to play on a level playing field. If one gets a certain ban or what's the word? If the consequences for one player is one thing, if a player did the same thing, then obviously it should be the same. And again, I don't know. For me, like I said, it's just weird that they didn't show what happened leading up to it, and instead kept it to themselves for whatever reason. And now it's coming out that potentially it was an eye gouge that led to that whole scuffle. And I mean, you think about it, without, let's say, something did happen in when it came to Eben and whatever, let's say being eye gouged, that Eben wouldn't have reacted in the way he did, and we wouldn't here be sitting here talking about it 2 days later. So I think what's fair is fair, and whatever happens to Eben should happen to the Wales player as well.
Yes, I actually saw an official statement from World Rugby that they're not going to cite the other player leading into that situation due to unclear video evidence. So, from their perspective, there wasn't sufficient evidence to prove that he did something to Eben leading up to that scenario.
Yeah, well, the problem with that logic and that argument is that we had a scenario that evidence wasn't sufficient, and yet we have a player at the Bulls who's been banned for 9 weeks. So the consistency is very off. And I think the argument is not practical and not a very good one, if you're asking me.
Yeah, probably not. I think the most clear and obvious was what Eben did. So obviously, he's going to face the consequences. And I see there's certain people that said that he wasn't in the mood for club rugby for the rest of the year. So that's why he did it.
I saw that a lot as well. A lot of people I know have also made the same argument, and the form the Sharks are in, I can't see why you would want to play for the club at the moment. But look, I'm not justifying what Eben did. What he did was wrong, and he should get banned, and he should have gotten a red card, no doubt about it. But again, I think it's a case of we need to all want a fair game, and things to and that's where the argument comes in, where South Africans make the argument that if it's a South African player, the consequences of what you do is much worse than what it would be for other countries. And that's the exact reason why South African fans say these things, is based on the evidence that's in front of us. These things happen to South African players, and it's almost like an agenda against South African players, that if you do something slightly wrong, if there's no evidence pointing to any wrongdoing that you did, you'll still get a 9-week ban. If you get eye gouged and you clearly eye gouge someone back, you'll get banned and get a red card, but the other player won't. I mean, again, it's all about consistency, and Eben should get banned, but if they can, I mean, the photo is there. It's quite clear and obvious. And Hendrik Wessels didn't have any clear and obvious photo there. But, I mean, again, just about consistency. I think that's all we're really asking for.
Talking about that, don't you think the South African should work on the discipline? Because this is the fourth red card for the year. I mean, first it was Jasper Wiese, and then it was on this tour with Luet, Franco, and now Eben. So don't you think we should do some introspection and look at our discipline for the next year and beyond, especially if they are going after us in this way?
I must say Jasper's red card is a bit fuzzy. I don't remember exactly what happened there. Okay, well, yeah, head bump. Excuse me, sorry. Like I said, I'm not going to comment on Jasper because I don't exactly remember what happened. I'd still argue that Franco Moster's red card's been rescinded, so I think that gives a clear indication of what it was. And I still don't agree with Luete Jager's red card at the end of the day. Um, I mean, look, I think we do have some hot-headed players when they add it. And I mean, with that being said, we are a physical side. No excusing Eben. I'm gonna exclude that from the whole argument here because what he did wasn't right, so completely justified. But yeah, I think the others, it's a consequence of the game. I suppose excluding Jasper's one as well. I don't think discipline is really much of an issue that we need to worry about. It's a game of rugby. It's a physical game, and accidents may well happen. I still don't think Luert and Franco's red cards were justified, and yeah, I don't think we really have a discipline issue. I think it's just a case of we were unfortunate to get these calls against us, and on a different day, I suppose we still would have been sent off because we're the Springboks. But any other team, it wouldn't be the same case. So I don't think it's a discipline issue, to be honest with you.
Don't you think we are pushing the boundaries sometimes too far in the way we are physical? I mean, again, looking this weekend, the Stormers game, the way Evan Roos plays, he's also that in your face type of player, sometimes off the ball tackles and pushing a player to the ground. For me, he's a yellow red card waiting to happen. And he's not the only player. There's a lot of players playing like that. And obviously, rugby is a physical game and you want to be in the opposition's face, but don't you think we are pushing the limits in that sense?
I mean, I think it's difficult to say that one player will determine how a whole country plays. I mean, I do agree Evan Roos probably does have a bit of a temper issue. And I do think he's a yellow card or a red card waiting to happen. With that being said, I don't think he really, it's not, how do I say it? I think he likes getting people under people's skin. it does irritate me, to be honest with you. I don't enjoy the way he plays when it comes to those sort of things in general. I mean, but I can take an example. I'm not going to think of his name, but he plays lock for New Zealand, the young guy.
Fabian Holland.
No, no, no. I've got Vita on my brain, but it's not him. Um,
Tupavai.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, he plays very much in the same way. He likes getting in people's faces. He's obviously a physical guy, and that's just the way they play the game. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like any of the players that really do that. To be honest with you, I can acknowledge that they may well be a good player, but I don't enjoy that. I think your best players who have played the game never really did that. You think about Dan Carter, you think about Brian Abana, Dwayne Vermeulen, even although he was he liked to get physical and that sort of thing. He was never a player that was gonna jump up in your face and push your head into the ground and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think like players like Jasper, to be honest with you, Evan Ruiz, these guys do have a red card tendency. Let's not make it red. They may well have a tendency to get cards, but I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's really the Springboks that's pushing the limit in terms of physicality. I think it's just when you are the most physical team in the world, things could potentially happen, and it's I suppose a consequence of the way we want to play a game. I don't think it's pushing the limits at all. I think we're more physical than anyone else. I think it's just how it is.
Yeah, look, I don't mind the physicality in your face type of play that we do play with. But I mean, if you look at players like Peter Steph de Toy and Tiakulisi, they are in your face, they are running hard at you, but it stops there, They don't do that extra bit where they push players in the ground or tackle someone off the ball and that kind of silly stuff. So I don't mind the physicality, but I just feel that players need to keep their head sometimes because, especially as you said, they are after us in a sense that the same rules don't apply to us. So we need to be clever in the way we are playing physical. I think that's just to the point that I'm getting here.
No, look, I 100% agree with that. I think Peter Steph and Sia Kolisi are prime examples um, of not needing to be that type of player and still dominate physically. I do think there's players, again, Jasper and even the rest are prime examples of players that really lose their head. And I think a team that could get under their skin, whether it be for the Stormers or for the Springboks, they could really be problematic. And I think when you come up against really good teams who are able to get under their skin, it could potentially be at the end of the day a loss for the Boks because they may well get a card, yellow card, red card, because they lose their heads, and we obviously are a man down. Although we do apparently do quite well when that happens, um, but yeah, I think I agree that they need to keep their heads, and I wish they did. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to change when it comes to those two players. So yeah, I completely agree. But I suppose we'll see what happens when. Oh no, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I don't think they're going to change, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I think getting back to the rugby again, any standout performances from you from the weekend? I mean, obviously there was a lot, but anyone particularly standing out?
You know what? I thought John Grobbelaar had a solid game at hooker. I don't think it was necessarily a standout performance, but I think it was very solid, good in the lineouts. I don't think we did lose a lineout at all, which is obviously very positive. Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult to say because I think pretty much everyone stood out. I think surprisingly, Morne van der Berg actually had a pretty solid game, to be honest. Although I'm not his biggest fan, I think his kicking game was quite on point. Put some good up and unders. I think his passing was good. He's always in for a try, so you can count on him when it comes to that. But I think to go the other way, I think one player that disappointed me slightly was John Klein. I don't think he had the best game ever. I think everyone else had quite solid games. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think Ron Ortje had an outstanding game. for me, he was everywhere on the field, whether it was a ruck line out or if we needed to defend, he was there. So I think he stood out for me, especially in the forwards. I think he maybe has cemented his spot for the number five jersey, in my opinion, going into next year. And backline, obviously, Andre, I think he had an excellent game. Just the way he carried the ball. I mean, he attracted three or four defenders at a time. That created the space everywhere else. So, yeah, I think those two really stood out for me.
I agree. I actually think it's good when you have a flank playing at center. But yeah, speaking of the other ones, and I'm going to mention my another pick that I thought about now as well. Who were the players that didn't really, stick their hand up for you?
Well, I think that Zachary Porton didn't have that big of an impact when he got on the field. But you can expect that. I mean, from a young guy, only his second test match in, so that's to be expected. And obviously, Eben, I don't think he had that great of an impact coming off the bench. But I think the rest of the new squad, they actually brought it when they came on. So those two are the probably the standouts for me that didn't perform.
Fair enough. I must say, I think it's difficult for Zachary as well. He did come on at loose head where he's never really played, to be honest. So I think he did okay for where he came on, and obviously it's his second game, so you can't expect too much really. Another name I actually want to mention, and I'll get your thoughts on it as well. Damien Delende at outside centre, I don't think works. He's not an outside centre type of player. I think his distribution game is not there for an outside centre. I don't think he has the pace to for an outside centre, and obviously he's a very physical player. So he wants to take the ball up, but gain some meters, and then the rest of the players need to do what they need to do. So I don't think Damien Dialendi works at outside centre, and I think it was disappointing. I would love to have seen Kanan Moody given a shot there again, even in Ethan Hooker playing at centre for the box. I think that would have been good to see. So yeah, let me know what's your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the problem was we didn't really have any other wings, in the squad. So I think that's the reason why
23.
Moody and yeah, no, I think that's why Moody and Hooker played on the wing. Yeah, look, I agree with you on Damien de Linde. He's not an outside centre. He defended well, and it was obviously good to have another option of taking the ball up together with Andre. I think in that sense it worked because we could have gotten over the gain line. It didn't matter who took it up. So if it was Andre or Damien, but yeah, look, he doesn't really have a distribution game, so that's a problem. That's why your wings won't really get the ball unless Andre passes the ball. So that's the problem. But yeah, I also would have loved to see Moody again on outside centre because I think the combination between him and Andre works great. So yeah, maybe we'll see them again next year.
I mean, that'd be awesome. I think I agree. I think Kanan Moody is our successor when it comes to outside centre at the moment. I think he looks the best. To be honest, the best outside centre we have at the moment. Although obviously JC Creel is there. But yeah, no, I think Kanan Moody's form is really picking up, which is awesome to see. But anyways, going on to the URC. I think let's start with the South African, the XK Derby. What did you make of the Lions, unfortunately, beating the Bulls?
So you want to start off with the tragedy at first, I see.
I went for the first game of the weekend, so I think let's just take it at that.
Yeah, look, I picked it correctly last week. I told you the Lions would pull that one through, but I mean, to be honest, your whole forward pack was almost at the Springboks. I mean, from one to number five, they started this weekend, so it's obviously a difficult one if you miss key players like that, and also I mean, you got an Andre back, but then he's injured, so you also can't play him, which is also a loss. So You just didn't have that player that could have directed you the way you should have. I mean, Embrace had a good game, but except for him, I feel your backline couldn't get moving. The forwards didn't dominate as they should have, and there was this one swing in the game where it was a 50-50 call. You were on the attack in the Lions 22-meter line, and the penalty went against you, where it could have gotten your way, and it would have been a different game. And I think the Lions scored two or three times after that, so then the game was done. But I must give it to the guys who didn't give up fighting. I mean, two tries in the last 10 minutes to try and get back. So I think all in all, not a bad effort. But yeah, I obviously thought that the Lions would take this one because they had their whole team available for the match.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we were our own worst enemy as well. I think we made a lot of mistakes, that could have been prevented. Yeah, I mean, it would have been great to obviously have, 1 to 5 playing there for us. Not using the excuse, Akkad is still a fantastic player. And I do rate for France, do rate France. Yeah, no excuses there. But I do think, yeah, I think we just made our own. I think we made a lot of mistakes. I do think we fought quite well. Um, Villiers at fullback just is really past his game. I think Keegan Johannes is I think he's a decent player to be honest, but I don't think he's not a fly half. And I think obviously those are two very key positions that we're missing. We're missing good players there. They're obviously our decision makers at the end of the day. And Ambrose had a really good game. I think Stravino had a decent game as well. Sebastian de Klerk looked dangerous every time he got the ball. But yeah, I think our backline couldn't get going because, like you said, our forwards didn't really dominate the way they should have. And yeah, I must say, I think our backline actually looks quite dangerous when we get going. I think once we have our forwards back, I think we're going to be a much different side. So yeah, I think although it was a negative result, I think hopefully with a bit more time we can see Johan Ackermann really implement his game plan and get the Bulls flowing again. I suppose we'll see what happens, but I'm excited for the future. I think we have some good players. One thing I would also say, Cheswell Juster when he came on, that guy looks extremely dangerous. I don't know how many defenders he beat, but I think he beat more defenders himself than everybody in the whole game. So to him, I'm excited for his future, and very glad he's at the Bulls.
Definitely made a big difference when he came on. He just gave that ignition that you needed. But interesting that you mentioned that you said that Willie is past his time at the Bulls. So who would you rather play on fullback then? Devin Williams.
It's a difficult choice. One thing I would say is I hope we sign Q and Horn. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I'm sorry to break the bad news to you, but he's confirmed that he's signing with the Lions again for the next 2 to 3 years because of the fact that you will get more game time.
That's a lie. He'll get all the game time he needs at the Bulls. Yo, you know what he's talking about. We don't have a fullback now. He wants to complain that he's not going to get game time. No ways. No, I'm joking. I suppose that is quite sad to be honest. You know what? I don't know what we're going to do at fullback. To be completely honest with you, we really don't have many options. I'm not a fan of Devin Williams, and obviously I'm not a fan of Willie Lurie at fullback. I don't think either one have the quality to, I suppose, be what they need to be at the Bulls. I would love to have seen Henry Immelman given more of a go there, but obviously he's not in the running for whatever reason that might be. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I really don't know. I don't because I'm not. I mean, the thing is, I'm not a fan of playing guys out of position when not necessary. I know we've tried Stravino Jacobs there at times, and I don't know if I would do that. I don't think he has the aerial capabilities to be able to cover fullback. Maybe Kurtley Orense. Now that I think about it, there we go. There's your solution. Even Kane and Moody, I'd rather play Kane and Moody there. So when those guys are back, I think that's what we have to do. There's my hope.
For a moment, we had a speechless Blue Bull supporter. That doesn't happen often.
Ugh, but I came back with a bang.
No, no, I wanted to ask you what do you think about Kurtley maybe playing fullback? I mean, that's obviously an option. And do you think David Kriel will ever play fullback again, or is his position centre only now?
I think Kirtley is our best option at fullback. Um, 'Cause the thing I think we have wings covered very well. Sebastian de Klerk has made the 14 or the 11 jersey his own. We have Stravina there. We obviously have Chisel Juster coming through. We have Kane and Moody as an option there. So I think if we can stick with Kirtley, I think he's our best fullback. He's proven that he is obviously very good at that position. Aerial capabilities fantastic, counter attacking extremely good. So and I think especially with the way Johan Ackerman, I'm assuming wants to play, I think he's a fantastic option. And David Kriel, for me, I think he should stick to centre, preferably inside. Obviously, we have Jan Serfontein there now, but you know you can. It's easy to chop and change. I think inside centre. I think was it last season or the season prior where David Kriel mainly played inside centre, and I think he had a fantastic season. So I think that for me is his best position.
Speaking of game plans, can you see what type of game plan it is that he wants to play?
Yeah, I think it's reasonably similar to what he had at the Lions. Obviously, I think the players that he has at his disposal, I won't say can't play it, but obviously still need a bit of time to adapt to the game plan. We are certainly playing more running rugby. We obviously aren't kicking as much as we used to, especially under Jake White, which is good to see because I think players like Ambrose Papi, Cheswell Eustace, Stravino Jacobs is much better with ball in hand than he is chasing kicks down and chasing up and unders. I think he showed it this weekend. To be honest with you, he's obviously very strong when it comes to hand off bumps, and he does have a step on him. He is quite quick, so I think he's way more dangerous, and we can utilize him much better when we play a more running style game. And the same with Sebastian de Klerk. Yeah, I just think, especially our attacking players, Kurtley Orense, for example, Kane and Moody, we really have the players to be able to make this game plan work. I think we just need to obviously get the whole formula sorted. And I think Johan Ackerman will do a very good job. We obviously have talented players. I think the most interesting one, and we'll get your thoughts, is it Handré Pollard's game to be able to play the way that Johan Ackerman probably wants to play.
That's just what I wanted to ask you now. I wanted to ask you the same question. So, Andre is obviously a more old type of Blue Bulls player, under the Heineke Meyer scenario where it's forwards dominating, you have a good kicking game, pin the opposition down in their own 22, driving mauls, scrum, then you score from there, and obviously you kick your penalties. So, and Johan Ackerman had Elton Jantjies at the Lions, who was a more attacking minded fly half, and obviously that suited them. So the big question now is will Andre be able to play that game plan? And if you look at the Springboks, when that game plan worked a bit, is when obviously Willie was there at fullback, where he was your more attacking option when he got the ball at the fly off position. So the question then you need to be asking is who will fulfill that role? Will Kurtley be able to fulfill that role? Because obviously Willie was a great distributor of the ball. So will Kurtley be able to do the same thing playing at fullback?
I think he will. Obviously, he brings a different dynamic. I don't think his distribution game is as good as Vali's, but I think where he may lack in that department, I think he makes up for it with his actual attacking play. I mean, Vali Larue never hit a gap really. He was never one for sidestepping, especially obviously when it came later on in his career, where he obviously focused on putting guys in gaps, and again, a very good passing game, decent kicking game. I think Kirtley is able to hit the gaps, and I think he does have a reasonably good distribution game. Obviously, again, not as good as Phillies, but I think he's much more able to hit the gap, step a couple guys. I think his connection with Kane and Moody is fantastic. So if Kane and Moody at outside centre and Kirtley at fullback, I think it's a very dangerous attack that could potentially hurt a lot of teams. So yeah, I think Kirtley is more than capable of being able to do that. And on Andre, I think hopefully he can adapt because I mean he is a fantastic fly half. And yes, I think his kicking game is obviously a stronger asset, but I do think he has the potential to play a running game. Obviously, he's a more physical fly half. You know, someone like Sasha would have been ideal for Jan Akkerman's game plan. And I mean, I can just imagine a Embrace Papier, Sasha, Jan Serfontein, Moody, and then with Cheswell Jooste or Stravina or de Klerk with Kirtley at fullback. I mean, how dangerous could that be? That'd be absolutely awesome. But I think Pollard can adapt. I suppose it's just for him a waiting game, and we'll see. Hopefully, he can get past his injury very quickly, so he can start integrating much quicker. But I think with him, it is a case of we'll wait and see is he able to do it or not.
Yeah, I think there's only something you can dream of. I mean, Sasha playing for the Bulls, I don't think that will really happen. So I think you can keep on dreaming.
Definitely not.
In any case, I think he will be able to adapt. It will just be to see how he will be able to adapt. And I mean, also just the signing of Kate Volliter, I don't think he's also that attacking kind of fly off. I think he's more of a 100 Polar type of fly off. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting choices you made on fly off. So, let's see. Maybe the game plan will be a bit different. Rely on the big forwards, play more kicking game, defensive game, and see if you can start winning games and then maybe build on that. So, I think that's maybe what you will do going forwards. Yeah. I think then the other.
No, you know what I was actually going to say, and it's quite surprising, but I think he would have been ideal for the game plan. And I'm not saying we must do it because you know I'm not the biggest fan, but I think Bonnie Labok even would have been a very good option for the Bulls at 10 with this type of game plan. Like I said, I'm hopefully Andre Pollard can make it work, and I do believe he can because I think he's a fantastic fly off. But yeah, I think someone even like Marnie probably would have suited this type of play much better than potentially Andre Pollard. I don't think we can write Andre Pollard off just yet.
Wow, we're finally seeing the light here. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I also think another player that you also let go now is Buta Chamberlain. I think he's also a
Mm.
bit more of an attacking minded fly off. He's also obviously has a good kicking game, but I think he also would have been well suited to that game plan. But yeah, obviously that ship has sailed now. Yeah, I mean, you obviously have to do what you need to do given the players that you have. So obviously, good coaches is adaptable. So I'm sure you will be able to find a good game plan with the players that you have currently.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to be honest that a good young player can somehow break through. I agree, Kate Volater is not the option. I don't think that's his game plan either, or his type of play. But yeah, I suppose we'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyways, moving on to a fantastic comeback there. Well, the old Stormers. This is how did you find that game? I thought Munster were going to absolutely knock you in the beginning.
Yeah, I was also surprised with the result. I'm not going to lie to you because that first half, that was classic, last season Stormers away games where they go play in Europe and they don't really pitch. They are just there on the playing field, but no one is actually playing. So, yeah, but I must give credit to them. I mean, coming back there in the second half, I think credit must be due to Dobson. I mean, putting on the bench so early as he did. I think that was the turning point in the game. I mean, they really made a difference when they came on. I think guys like Audrey Smith, he made a real impact with JD Schickerling, even Ron Ackerman, playing that enforcer role that we needed. So they really made a difference there. And even the front row, I mean, the scrums just dominated that second half. Our back in the first half wasn't that bad. We actually were there and thereabouts, but I think they just brought the difference. And then, yeah, it just felt like Munster didn't pack a punch there in the second half, as if they just tried to play out the game, play on our half, trying to seal the victory, but it obviously backfired in that last 20 minutes where we scored three quick tries and then the game was taken away from them. Yeah, I don't know what you made of the game.
I mean, like I said, I thought in the beginning they were going to knock you a bit, but I think credit to the Stormers, you guys did well. You came back, you stayed in the game as far as you could, and when it came time to, put the foot down, you did it. I think, I mean, classic South Africa. I think from start to finish, the Stormers were dominant in the scrum. I think you guys did quite reasonably well there. Who had a bit of a shocker was Connor Evans. I thought the first half he really did have a shocker, and I do agree when Andre Smith and JD Schikkeling came on, I think they made an absolutely massive difference, and it shows the quality that these guys have. And again, well done to them. But yeah, I thought Connor Evans was a massive, and I'm not even just talking about the yellow card. I think he made so many mistakes in that first half. So credit to Dobson, like you said, they brought. I think he saw the mistakes and he saw the problems, and he reacted, and he reacted well. Was he brought on guys? I think, like you said, Ackerman coming on and bringing the enforcer role, which I don't think you guys necessarily had. I mean, Paul de Villiers is not that type of player really. Marcel Tennyson is not an extremely physical guy, and the only guy you then have is Evan Rus, which if you double up on him, he's not really going to be able to do that much. So I think having a seven and an eight who are your more physical players is important, because when you have two runners with the ball, I think Marcel Tennyson's a decent player to possibly bring off the bench. He's got more of an engine, but I don't think he's really anything more than that. But yeah, I suppose the question would be then for you: would you guys like JD Schikkeling and Andre Smith, Ruan Ackerman, would you keep them on the bench and have them almost like your bomb squad, or would you now bring them in into the starting 15?
So, look, for me, Murat and Connor Evans are not physical players. I mean, Murat can't play the enforcer role. I know some people rate him, but I don't. I don't think he is an enforcer. I mean, he's now played, 5 to 6 years for the Stormers now, and I haven't seen him playing that role. So we obviously need an enforcer to start. So we either need R.A. Smith or even JD to start. So my pick would be start with RJ, and then obviously his best partner would be JD. So for me, I would start them. And then we will obviously get back Ben Jason Dixon from the Springboks. He didn't play a lot of rugby, so I think he would go straight into the starting role. For me, I would start him, Paul de Villiers, with Evan Ruiz, and then I will keep Ron Ackerman on the bench. I think he's a good option because then he can play that enforcer role that he did, or as he did now in the second half against Munster. So ideally, that would be my starting team. And yeah, Marcel Tiernissen is more of an impact player for me as well. So I wouldn't start him if you don't have a player like a Ron Ackerman next to you. But also saying that, then you don't have a fetcher. And I think Paul de Villiers has made a name for himself this year as that fetcher. And that's the player we needed in the past 2 seasons. We needed that fetcher because Dion Fourie did it for us when we won the first URC season. And then he got a lot of injuries and we couldn't fill that gap. So, yeah, for me, that's my ideal team.
I think if he carries on the way he's playing, I think he can really put his hand up for the box potentially, and I think he almost like for like replaced Dion Fourie. He's obviously not as tall, but he's not scared to make a hit. He's not scared to, the dark arts, going over the ball. I think he does have quite a good engine on him. So, I mean, a really good potential good player. And I think you guys have a really good player on your hands, and I agree. I think that Paul de Villiers, Ben Jason, and Ivan Ruiz back row. So yeah, no, I think you guys have a fantastic player there. But on your scrum off, what do you make of your scrum offs? I know obviously you've mentioned previously Devil Divanoch is not your cup of tea, but it seems that Dobson has really, I don't know if he's decided that these two players are his scrum halves moving forward, and unless they get an injury or too fatigued, they aren't going to play, or they are going to play. Yeah, what's your opinion on them?
Look, I know we have Kobus Reinach, and obviously when the Springbok season is over and he had a rest, he would obviously be our first choice. But then, I don't know, obviously, I don't really rate Devil Dihuvanova anymore. For me, he's just too slow. He's not quick enough at the breakdowns. Obviously, he has a lot of experience, but I would rather see a new player play there. And for me, I would rather give a guy like Caleb Abrahams a go. I mean, we have signed him on loan, so why don't we give him a go? He showed, okay, I know it's only the Curry Cup, but he showed in the Curry Cup what potential he has as a young scrum half. So why don't you give a guy like him a chance? And you can obviously learn from Devil Divanocha in practices and so forth. I just think that we may be missing a trick or two, especially with guys like that not given a chance, even if it's just off the bench.
100%, I agree. I think Caleb Abrahams really showed his potential, and um, obviously he was at the Bulls, and I saw a couple of the youth games where he played really well. So I think you guys actually do have someone good in your hands that if you can give some game time and potentially sign him permanently, that's a good young scrum half that you guys can have and build with for the next. I mean, Devil Dubanoja is 30 whatever. Kobus is 35 already. Stefan Ungara is probably also not far from 30, if not already. So there's potentially someone who you can really build with that you may well be missing a trick out on. So let's hope he gets an opportunity. Yeah, I think he's a good player, and I think he's shown what he can do in the Curry Cup. Although it is just the Curry Cup, it's still professional players that you're playing against, and he was one of the better players in the whole Curry Cup. So I suppose we'll see. But speaking of debutants and players on loan, what did you make of Dylan Mart's debut?
That was my next point. I actually wanted to mention that now. It's as if you can read my mind tonight, and I don't know what. I think we have a better connection or something. Yeah,
That's
look,
true.
yeah. Now I think Dylan Moore had a good game, and it just shows you what a player can do if he's given a chance. I mean, he had an excellent Curry Cup for the Greek was, and I think he had a solid game. I mean, it took him just a few minutes to find his feet at this level, but once he was in the game, he made his tackles, he made a few runs when he got the ball, and he even scored a try on debut. So he's a prime example of a player in form, give him a chance, see what he can do, and then he performs. So, given that example, I just strongly feel that we should give Caleb Abrahams a chance at scrum off. So, yeah, hopefully we can do that and give a few more players chance. I also know that we have Gershwin Weir also on loan, so he's also an exciting player. So hopefully we can also give him a chance.
100%, I think, yeah, I mean, prime examples of players who started at lower teams and ended up being more than 60 cap Springboks, Vincent Koch, guys like Faf de Klerk, Willie Leroux started at the Griquas and then the Cheetahs. So, there's potential for these guys to actually make it big and, become Springbok legends at the end of the day. So, yeah, Dylan Mart, I think, had a really solid debut. I think he put his name in the hat for starting roles moving forward. So yeah, I think if he gets a go and a good run of games, I'm not saying he's going to be Springbok quality necessarily, but I think he looks like a really solid player. He's good on defense. He's quick. So yeah, potentially someone that you guys have really done well with there. Um,
Yeah, look, we mentioned that the Stormers weren't challenged as of yet, and this was obviously their first challenge. I mean, Munster obviously had a solid team that most of their three or four island players back, and they actually had a solid team at home. And I think this was the first time the Stormers won there. So obviously they passed this test, and they're the only unbeaten side in the URC. So I think they have stamped their authority now as a team to beat in this URC season.
I think, I mean, I definitely agree with that, and I think we can make actually quite a swift transition in speaking about this. I agree that Stormers are the team to beat, and with players that, I mean, in my opinion, at the start of the season, I thought that you guys are actually going to struggle a bit. With the players that you guys had. So surprisingly and pleasantly surprised, to be honest, you guys have done well. And again, I think credit to John Dobson for that. But yeah, I suppose it shows you that you don't necessarily need the best players in the world to really play well and make tactics work. Make sure that you win games and do what you need to do in order to win games. And I think a prime example, moving on, is the Sharks, who you think on paper, have some of the best players in the country, but they can't buy a win, which they probably would try if they could. So yeah, surprising. What do you make of the Sharks this weekend, as well?
Look, the Sharks obviously have all the Springboks in their squad. So obviously, when the Springboks don't play, they need to play their B team. But I feel they also have some of the best youngsters in South Africa currently playing for them as well. So, look, I don't know. I'm just like speechless. I don't know what to make of them. I mean, if you look at them on paper this weekend, they should have beaten Connacht and they should have beaten them comfortably, and they didn't. And I mean, they lost badly. So obviously, I know they have some coaching issues with John Plumtree going out of the head coach role and more to an advisory role going forward. But yeah, I don't know what their problem is, to be honest with you.
I mean, I suppose that's the thing is where lies the problem. You take the coach out of the role and they almost play worse. So is it a player problem? Is it a coaching problem? Is it where lies the problem? And like you said, they've got all the Springboks, but they've also got some of the best players in the country. Obviously the Sharks have got a lot of money, so for them to scout and recruit the best schoolboys in the country is very easy, but they aren't able to produce. So it is a weird thing. I thought when Plumtree came in and you saw the players that they signed, when Eben came in and obviously Khaleesi was there, Bongi, all these guys came in, you thought, oh, these guys are going to be dangerous, and it's just hasn't worked over the last couple of years, and still isn't working for whatever reason. So I think it is weird. I must be honest, I didn't think the Sharks would win, but I certainly thought it was going to be a much closer game than what it was. So yeah, there's something very very wrong at the Sharks, and they have to find a solution very quickly. Otherwise, I suppose I don't really know what's going to happen with them, but there's going to be a lot of people very, very unhappy with their performances. And
Yeah, look, I think they firstly they will lose all their funding if this continues because I mean Mazzotti won't finance a team that's bottom of the lock. So they obviously need wins and trophies to keep their funding. So I think that's the first thing. So obviously they need to look internally, from the top to the bottom to see where is it going wrong and then they should fix it from there. So I think they've probably written off their season. I mean, how do you go from these losses to restoring a season?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't, I'm probably, the same with the Sharks coaching staff. I don't know what to do or what to say at the moment. I think it's a sad season for them. I don't think there's any real way to. I suppose it's still early technically, so there is a way to come back, but I think it's going to be very, very difficult to find a solution very quickly. Considering this isn't a recent issue, it's an issue that's been coming over the last couple of years and just hasn't gotten better. It's actually, in fact, gotten worse. So I think for them, I suppose you'd probably have to say you have to start fresh. Turn a new page and try and figure out what the problem is, and then sort it out from there. Because I mean, we on Shark supporters, and we sitting here trying to figure out what to do. Um, and yeah, we can't really come up with anything. Can't even figure out what's wrong because they've got the players. They should have the coaching staff, and nothing's working.
No, no, definitely. And I think just to transition over to the next topic, I think it's going to bad from worse for them because obviously the Champions Cup is starting now this weekend. It's obviously exciting times. And I've heard most of the coaches say that they are not sending second string South African teams to play overseas, which is obviously good to hear. Obviously, they're starting to take the tournament more seriously now, which is something that we wanted since the start of this tournament. But speaking of the Sharks, they are playing Toulouse this weekend at in France, so I think they need to get ready to lose this weekend.
Let's hope they can pull out an upset, but I highly doubt it. I think it's going to be a very, like you said, I think things are going to go from bad to worse. I just hope they aren't going to put a Springbok Wales scoreline on them so they can at least have some positives taking from that game.
Yeah, because technically, if you look at it, it's basically France against the Springboks if all the Springboks are available to play. But even that being said, we've seen it in the past. They can't perform if they play for the Sharks. I don't know if it's just a mindset thing, but yeah, I don't see the Sharks giving them a go this weekend.
You know what it probably was? Eben probably saw that the Sharks are playing to lose this weekend and was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna be, I'm not playing that game."
Yeah, I know. He was ready to lose. Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
I don't know, but yeah. So, on a more positive note, the Bulls are playing Bordeaux at Loftus, and Bordeaux is looking good in the top 14. They are currently ranked sixth out of all the teams. So, how do you think it will go this weekend?
I think it's difficult to call because obviously the Bulls have still, it's a new style of play. We haven't really seen them settle at the moment, and I think the positive is that it is at Loftus. So, um, let's hope they can put up a good game and a good fight, and hopefully we can put up a good score and a good performance. Um, it's difficult to predict, to be honest, but I think the Bulls should take it. Hopefully, with the guys back this weekend, they can put up a good performance. And yeah, I suppose it's a wait and see. To be honest, it's difficult, like I said, to predict for me. So yeah, what do you think?
It all depends on the team that Bordeaux will send. I mean, if they pick all their international players, then I think they will give the Bulls a good go. I think the only thing that will play in your favor is obviously the altitude to see whether they can adjust. And they played this past weekend, and now a trip to South Africa playing in altitude will be challenging for them. So I think it will be close, but yeah, depending on the team, I think if they play all their internationals, they could get the win over the Bulls this weekend. So that's my bold prediction.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to disagree. Like I said, and I think one thing with the Bulls is we haven't sorted out our bench yet. Um, and that's something I saw at the beginning of the season is we start very well, and then we kind of struggle in the second half when our bench comes on. That's where we really take a dip. So yeah, if we can keep those guys on for as long as possible, that'll be good. And then hopefully we can figure out the bench this weekend as well. And I think
Yeah, and
I think it's
hopefully,
also a case of the Bulls depends on the team the Bulls can put out as well.
Kirtley and Andre has recovered from their injuries and they're ready to play. So they would definitely make a difference to the teams. Let's see how the teams line up this weekend, but I think it should be a cracker of a game either way.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think it's also a case of where will Kurtley play. I think the wings look good, but if he's going to decide to drop one of the wings and or rather play Villiers at fullback. I think that's also going to be.
Yeah, but let's see. I think that should be probably from a South African perspective the game of the weekend and the game of Saturday. Then another big game on Friday night. One of the first games is Bayonne against the Stormers in France. I don't think it will be an easy game for the Stormers, but hopefully they can keep the momentum going into that game and deliver a performance they did against Munster in the second half for the full 80 minutes. What do you think about that game?
I mean, again, it's a difficult one to pick apart to kind of predict who's going to take the game. I think the Stormers again are the team to beat in the URC, but Champions Cup is obviously a different beast. So it's in France again. Away game is never easy, and the Stormers don't have a very good record of away games. So I agree. I hope they can pull through, and again with the players coming back, hopefully they can make a big difference. I think a team selection again will be quite interesting for you guys this weekend, and will certainly determine make a big difference in terms of the result. So yeah, what do you make of it? How do you think you guys are going to be able to pull it through?
Look, I know definitely we won't. I know Quibus, Sasha, and Damien won't play this weekend. So we will obviously be without our key backline players. But like I said earlier, I think Ben Jason Dixon should go straight into the lineup. He hasn't played a lot of games. So he should slot in nicely. Obviously, he will make a big difference coming in for us. So, yeah, and it will be a difficult game because Bayonne is currently fifth on the top 14 log and they beat Toulouse earlier this year. So, I mean, they're a quality side. So, and they are playing at home, so it won't be an easy game. I think guys like Yuri Mattia should deliver another standout performance if we are able to win this game. So for me, a lot will depend on whether we will get that forward dominance as we got against Munster and whether Mattia can play that general role again this weekend to ensure that first we have the territory in possession and secondly get our dangerous backs firing.
100%. I'm not even necessarily talking about Sasha. I mean, it would have been great, obviously, to have them back. I think they would have made an absolutely massive difference. Um, but if I look at you guys' starting lineup from the weekend, I think guys like Connor Evans and I mean, I think Salman Murat is going to start either way. I don't think he's going to be dropped at all. He's obviously captain. Um, but yeah, I think you guys as forward picks are going to be extremely important. I mean, who do you play at hooker as well? Do you stick with Andre Yichu or do you go with JJ, who is obviously physical? I think he's slightly more mobile than Andre Yichu. Obviously, I think JD must start, in my opinion. I think he's honestly your guys' best lock. Yeah, I think Ben Jason obviously comes in. I mean, you even think about it, Ruan Ackerman can also play lock. So, yeah, there's a couple of ways you can go with it. I'm not sure what John Dobson's train of thought is, what his thinking is going to be for this game. But yeah, I think the back line is where you guys suffer a bit, but it's going to be, I think your guys' biggest asset will potentially be your defense and how you guys perform there. And I think a key player is going to be Paul de Villiers and how he's able to impact the rucks and use his engine, use his tackling to your advantage. And yeah, Evan Lewis I think can also have a huge impact on this game.
Yeah, I think he obviously needs to keep up the form that he's playing with currently. Yeah, a lot will depend on that forward back of ours to get us that go forward ball. So, yeah, if I can give the predictions, I'm going with the Stormers this weekend. I think we should be able to pull this one through.
Yeah, I mean again a difficult call. I think I'm gonna go the opposite just because it's an away game. Um, yeah, I think it's gonna be a tough game, and I think it might have been a different outcome with Sasha, Damien, and those guys back. But I do think it'll be a close game. But I think the Stormers might just lose it slightly. But yeah, interesting game, and I suppose we'll see what happens as well.
Is it because I backed the Lions last weekend?
100%. I'm checking.
Thought
Uh,
as much.
I think it's
Yeah,
gonna
but
be
anyway.
like just to go opposite, but I think again close game, but I do think the Stormers are gonna fall just short.
Look, we have been the underdog since the start of the URC season, so I think we've got something to prove. And hopefully, after this weekend, when you make your predictions, you won't go against the Stormers again.
Probably, but maybe that's the ticket, the winning ticket for the Stormers. If I go against them, then they win. So maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, we should test it out next weekend.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then the Challenge Cup is also starting. I know it's not that glamorous as the Champions Cup, but the Lions is playing against Benetton, the old URC foes in Johannesburg. What do you think is going to happen there?
I think the fact very much going for the home side. Only reason, to be honest. Benton are a decent team, but I think the altitude will obviously play a role. The Lions are coming off a good win against the Bulls, and to be honest, they did look good. Yeah, I think I will go with the Lions on that one.
Yeah, look, Benetton has played well, I think, this URC season. I think they will definitely give them a go. And maybe they can get the upset. I mean, they've got a lot of international players and quality players. So, yeah, I'm going with the underdog there. I'm going with Benetton for the win. And then
Okay, so
just
is it
to
because I went against the Stormers now?
definitely, I need to go against you on every pick. And then, yeah, just to, cap off your Sunday on a sour note and to end up in tears, the Cheetahs is going to lose against Exeter Chiefs.
Ah, yeah.
They're playing away from home. So, yeah,
I'm
what do you
actually
think
very
about
sad
that game?
about the Cheetahs, to be honest. Cheetahs always
I
my
know they
second
are
team.
actually, you say they're your second team, but aren't they actually your first team?
No, no, not at all. Not at all. The Bulls have always been my team. Cheetahs always everyone's second team because it's always fun to watch them. They always played some good running rugby, but I think the downfall of the Cheetahs is quite sad. It's almost like Welsh rugby at the international level. Um, but yeah, no, look, I think it's going to be an easy win for Exeter, to be honest. Again, sad to see, but I'm glad to see they're at least playing some rugby. I still enjoy watching them. And it's always
Look,
nice to have some extra rugby, to be honest.
the problem still is that they don't have quality rugby outside of the Challenge Cup. I mean, they only play Curry Cup and the SA Cup, so they aren't challenged, against quality teams. I mean, to be honest, they didn't have a good Curry Cup season. I think the Griquas and Pumas performed better than them, and that alone tells you a story. So, yeah, it's obviously this argument we have that the Cheetahs, Griquas, and Pumas need better quality competitions, obviously for them to grow as unions, but also to be competitive in these types of competition. So the question will be asked as to how long they will be in this competition, if they will, put up average to below average performances.
Exactly, and I think I was going to mention that as well. The fact that the Pumas and the Griquas, and you can even argue Buelan to a certain extent, have almost taken the Cheetahs, have gone past them, considering the Cheetahs as a union and what they were. So, yeah, I think Francois Steyn is certainly trying his hardest, but I don't think he's going to come right when it comes to competitive tournaments for the Cheetahs. So, again, sad to see, but I suppose that's just the way of life at the moment for the Cheetahs. And I don't think they get massive support from SA Rugby, to be honest. But I think it's also a case they obviously don't have the financials to be able to compete against the bigger unions, unfortunately. And um, obviously Bloemfontein's not the biggest city, so in terms of crowd pool and everything, they aren't going to get much support. So I think that's the downfall of the Cheetahs, to be fair. So yeah. But anyways, I actually wanted to ask you a question, and I'm gonna bring this into our rugby rant. Hashim Peed getting 0 minutes this weekend for the Lions. What do you make of it?
So look, firstly, I think the Lions need obviously new coaching staff. I don't think obviously there's a few quality coaches there, but obviously at head coach, I mean Ivan van Rooyen has been at the helm since 2019, and it's been 6 years now. And they have the best, youngest players in the country, but they can't win anything, and they just had an average side. And talking about players like Hashim Pir, I mean, look what he did at the baby box. I know he's only 19 or 20, but I mean, he's a quality player. You should at least give him a chance. And especially if Morne van den Berg isn't playing, see what he can do, give him a chance because I can promise you he will perform. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
Completely agree. I think it's disappointing to see him on the bench because I think a lot of guys were excited by him potentially getting his shot, his first shot opportunity. And look, I think Nico Steyn had obviously a very good game, so there was that. But I mean, the fact that he doesn't even get, I mean, he didn't even get 5 minutes, so disappointing.
Yeah,
Quality player. I think he proved what he did with the baby box that he has potential to be a quality player. And I think the problem is now is you see guys with the potential and quality of Hashim Pete not getting any game time, even when Morne van der Berg isn't there. And the Lions are signing all these young players, and players are going to the Lions for opportunities because the bigger unions, it's obviously more difficult to get those opportunities. So they see young players at the Lions getting chances, and now all of a sudden that stopped. So that could potentially hinder the Lions being able to bring in some of the top schoolboy rugby players in the country, um, because obviously the Bulls, the Sharks could offer more money. I'm not saying one should go for the money, but they can offer more money, and potentially still get the same amount of opportunity. I mean, why would you not take that? And not being ugly, but Joburg is not the nicest place in the world to stay. So yeah, I don't know. It's very irritating.
I can look to give a player 3 minutes to play. I mean, what's the use? I mean, you could have just let him stay on the bench for that 3 minutes because he won't make an impact on the game or any useful impact to state it like that. So, yeah, look, I'm also irritated by the fact that they have these young players, but they don't get the opportunity anymore, especially guys from the under 20 Springboks that played the way they did. And I mean, look at Cheswell Yearster. He's been given an opportunity at the Bulls, and look how he's playing. And I mean, he's playing at the wing. It's obviously not a easy position to play, but he's doing exceptionally well. So the question is, why don't you give Hashim Pete that opportunity? And I mean, they could have given him that opportunity in the Curry Cup, but they chose not to. I mean, that was the ideal solution, give him an opportunity, see what he can do, but they didn't. So yeah, it's annoying.
100%. I mean, you look at the Bulls. You don't even have to look as far as Chiswell used it because he was obviously one of the guys that went to the Springboks. We look at a guy who had a very good tournament but wasn't necessarily a standout player, JJ Tron, who's now getting his shot at the Bulls. He's in the starting lineup even when players like Ulrich Lowe were obviously back. He still got his opportunity. So although he's not necessarily making waves, I think he's putting in some very solid performances, and he's still young. So the opportunities will come, and he's only going to get better with the amount of minutes that he's getting, slowly but surely. So, um, yeah, like you said, it's annoying, but yeah, hopefully, I think those 3 minutes was just an excuse to say, you know what, I put him on. Everyone, I mean, I think everyone is probably saying the same thing that we are, and now it's over. But I did put him on, so I'm okay. I'm covered. But the thing is, when Morne van der Berg comes back, he's just gonna drop off the edge of the earth again.
Exactly. And you know, the problem with that is they are quality players. Yes, they are young, but put them in that position like a JJ Tron, and he will improve with every game that he plays. So it's not like you put in a player that's not of a good quality, So yeah, and that's the only way they will learn. Put them in that high pressure situations, let them learn week after week, and then from that they will only get better.
No, most definitely. So yeah, I think it's disappointing, but hopefully he gets his opportunity. And yeah, I think it's good to see the Bulls giving these young players um, their chance. And I think the best argument you can make is give them a chance, and if they don't make it, then you know it's on them. If they do, obviously you've given them that shot, and if they don't, then obviously they just weren't cut out for professional rugby at, well, one of these unions. So yeah. But look, Mr. Rock Norris, I think we can had a good chat there. For those of you listening, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, and let us know what your thoughts are on the Springboks and Eben's red card and the situation there. What you think the Sharks can do to improve their shortcomings at the moment. What do you think of the Bulls and Johan Ackerman, where they're going, how the Stormers are doing, and what your predictions are for the coming weekend. Mr. Rock Norris, I thank you and bid you adieu.
Thank you, and yeah, please let us know how you recover from a Blue Bulls loss.
Just go everything Rock Norris predicts. Just go against it.